Okay, Chiefs Kingdom. Sorry about that little bit of a wait, making sure giving you guys good internet as we go on here on the AP breakdown. Welcome in to the latest episode of the show. I am Ron Kopp Jr., the contributing editor at arrowheadpride.com, and I try to do this every Tuesday of the season. Hasn't been as fun of a season to do it as previous years if you've been following for a few years. Breaking down the film of each Chiefs game. We are here tonight to look at the Chiefs and Texans 20-10 result. The loss, the seventh loss of the season, that it does feel like put the nail in the coffin. And that's maybe what I'll open here with real quick before we get into the film, that, this did feel like the end. This season there's been so many little things that I have said to myself, and I've probably said on Twitter, that has kind of allowed me to keep hope, right? Whether it is, okay, hey, Worthy and Rice were out for the first part of the season. Let the offense get back in a rhythm. Or, hey, Buffalo, they know us very well. We didn't have a great game plan going into that. Okay. Denver, oh, you know what? They got us that time. Out of a bye week, we were kind of hoping too that would maybe get the win spark. Doesn't do it then. The Colts game kind of had me hoping, okay, maybe this team's just home merchants. Maybe they'd really just need to get home to correct all these mistakes and maybe not have the drops at home, maybe not have the egregious penalties at home. Maybe you finish more drives at home. And what do you know? Sunday just felt like kind of the real true punch, kind of gut punch to a Chiefs fan like me, where this team truly isn't the team that we thought they were going into the season, And I think I've been highlighting the offense quite a bit when I look at the games, and that's why we're going to start with the offense, or we're going to talk about the offense today. I'll tell you, as an analyst of the Chiefs, I do have an excitement for this offseason. And I think a few people have touched on it, but it's truly just because we're getting to a point with the Chiefs where there's no hiding the result, right? The accountability needs to happen. There needs to be accountability for the fact that a Patrick Mahomes team is not in the postseason. There's no major injuries keeping this offense from being who it needs to be. Obviously, now there is offensive line, right? Which that just happened, though. For a lot of this year, the offense as a whole did not have a lot of excuses for why they aren't the offense that is leading a team to the postseason. And now, they have to rely on a lot of else on top of winning out, which, I don't see why anyone would believe that could happen at this point. It could happen. Believe it would happen is really the right way to put it. Let me get my camera angle right here. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh no, why is it messing with me? I am sorry, all this StreamYard is giving me a little bit of a pain trying to get to the usual camera angle I use to show y'all this clip. Wow, this is annoying. All right, we'll just keep it like this for now. Let me see if there's anything I can do. I am so sorry, y'all. This is usually easy peasy. I get to change it to the camera angle that shows you all the screen, the largest, the biggest. Let's see, new layout. All right, we're gonna do it this way. One second, y'all. Appreciate everyone hanging with me. Oh, there we go. There it is. All right, hey, sweet. All right, we're back. All right, and we're just gonna run through. I got one video, so we don't have to go back and forth through videos. I'll just let this run, and we'll talk about the plays that pop up. And a lot of it is situational. The title of this video is the title for a reason. The Chiefs offense, for whatever reason this season, just fails red zone, fails on third down more often than you'd like, except if it's a third and one, fourth and one, except for the one famous one at the end of this game, which we'll get to. But it just seems like we're not getting anything easy. And it starts with the play calling. Look at 3rd and 4 here, where Mahomes does get the ball tipped and it's a sack, and ooh, that sucks. But watch the routes develop. Watch Xavier Worthy and Travis Kelce over the middle of the field nearly run into each other as they run their routes. That is not how it's supposed to look, I imagine. I talked about, actually, was it a couple weeks ago now, I talked about how releasing vertical as receivers, it can help to kind of be in that bunched formation at first, right? Kind of run tight to each other as you're releasing. It can make it hard on the defenders to not only see where you're going, but just kind of stay with you. But this isn't the case here. You need better spacing than this. If you're going to be dropping back on 3rd and 4, Worthy and Kelsey's route, which again, and I tweeted this something earlier, and this is going to be a theme of this show. I'm not going to act like I know what is supposed to happen on every play. I don't know the play calls. I don't know what everyone's responsibility is on each play. When I see a play that I understand the concept of, I try to explain it. But I try not to be as critical when I don't understand it. And hey, look, you know what? I don't understand what this route concept was necessarily supposed to be. Maybe they're faking mesh here, but it's not the mesh concept around it. And so maybe Kelsey's kind of running his option route, which an option route is basically you're trusting the receiver to make the right route based off of the defender's leverage, kind of based off of what route he's giving you. And the quarterback is going to read the leverage and what the defender is. And that's why Mahomes and Kelsey have been so good over the years, is because they both read that so well on the same page. They can anticipate it. We haven't seen it as much in the last few years, in my opinion, where they're on the same page, so perfectly. But here, yeah, Kelsey, if this is an option route, he doesn't take the right option. Guy's playing with inside leverage, and he just tries to run into the inside lever. He tries to run past, the direction that defender is kind of already playing, right? You think about maybe here breaking out after that initial move, but then it's a double slant pattern on the back end, which is, again, this is where I just don't even understand. Regardless, you cannot tell me that Mahomes has a great arsenal of options to go to on this play. And I just hate that. Patrick Mahomes deserves some easy buttons every once in a while. This is nowhere near an easy button. There's nothing to do here. Because Jalen Petrie is on Xavier Worthy. Again, he's playing inside leverage. One of these guys needs to break outside. And obviously Worthy is, maybe he's just super slow on his route. It looks like he's more breaking out at the end just because he kind of, it's like, natural kind of after the route is initially taken away. But I'm literally scratching my head. I didn't even mean to do that. I'm literally scratching my head right now. My head's a little itchy. That, I don't know. And you can see Pat drops back. Looking for Kelsey. Look, watch his eyes. He wants Kelsey to get open. And that is what makes me believe it's more of an option route type. But if that's an option route, then Kelsey has no other choice but to run inside, because he probably understands that there are routes coming behind him into the middle of the field. He can't run back out and cloud those. So Mahomes moves on from him. He goes to Rasheed, but the ball gets patted up. And look, Rasheed, could that have been completed? Sure, but 39 looks like he's ready to, knock that away. So again, just not great options on a 3rd and 4. Not necessarily, it's not 3rd and 10 on that. It was 3rd and 4. And so here we're on 2nd and 8 near midfield. Feels like the Chiefs are getting a little momentum here. And this is just where it's just frustrating. And this is it's really just one thing or another with this offense. Now, you're going to see, I have it highlighted that Hollywood Brown motions in, and he's just going to run across the field against a one-high structure. And, of course, there's space. And you know why? And this is a theme from last year. If you remember the Texans games from last year, they were giving us everything over the top. They were very keyed in on the underneath stuff, especially Travis Kelce. And is this Stingley? Yeah, watch Stingley. Flat-footed, doesn't even attempt to gain any sort of depth. He is all about Travis Kelce right here. This is 2nd and 8. And, man, that's an open pass. And who knows? Hollywood Brown he's probably not outrunning him to the sideline, but he's obviously, has a chance to make one move and it's a touchdown. But this is where I say it's one thing or another with this Chiefs offense. I don't love how Mahomes it does feel like Mahomes thought he got the flag. And so once he is in this situation right here, once he does feel the pressure, or once he does kind of see it coming, there's not really the urgency, I would say, to get out of it. So that's one thing. I wish 15 would have had a little more urgency to not necessarily act like this play was going to be a free play. But at the same time, the way this play reads out, he just can't even get to Hollywood. That's where not. Oh man, it would be nice to have Trey Smith in this game, because he is going to kind of come back here. He wants to read this safety. If he has the time, the safety's hips flip hard enough. And again, really, Hollywood's open more so just because there's no underneath defender here. The safety actually, gets over the top of it pretty well. So he's reading that safety. He sees him flip. He actually, he could launch this to Taekwondo. I think that's what he wants to do. But then he feels the pressure, doesn't have the time to necessarily do it. Although, again, I do feel like there could have been a little more urgency once he sees Caliendo kind of break. That's tough, though. That's really tough. You're on, that's a real deep drop. He's taking his deep drop, taking his hitch up. But it just sucks because, they did pry open some downfield routes on this one, and it turns into a huge sack because they were at the Houston 47-yard line, 2nd and 8 on this play, and it ends up being a punt on that drive. Being near midfield at all and not getting any points is just unacceptable from this Chiefs offense. I would love the Cowboys game was the worst example of that, where if you get near midfield, we get this team isn't finishing drives as well this season, but my gosh, we got to have some field goals. Here is a frustrating interception for sure, because Petry's all over this. Petry undercuts Juju here. He plays with outside leverage and then just undercuts it. And Mahomes is just naturally late on this because he just doesn't like what he's seeing, right? Let's rewind to the big angle, wide angle. I think he comes out of his drop, kind of eyeing Kelsey, right? And he comes back to the right side, looking Rasheed potentially, and he gets that linebacker to move. Al-Shahir is reading those eyes, right? He is all over his eyes. And so, yeah, in theory, boom, come back. But he took one too many. You'll see it in the end zone angle now. He takes one too many kind of hitches as he's kind of going through it. Boom, ball should be out. Ball should be out pretty much right there. And that's tough. That's tough to say. And that's why keeping footwork is so important as a quarterback. And he does actually a pretty good job of keeping his footwork. It's just kind of the fact that he did go all around the field kind of so quickly and then try to go back to the middle. He just didn't realize that Petry had such a good beat on this. Juju does look open, right? Because Al-Shahir is opening the window. But Jalen Petry does a really good play. So it's tough. It's not even – it's tough to be critical. It's really, again, a point of the offense where I just don't love how Pat – look how much he is turning and moving and reading before he has to get to this throw. To me, that just tells me he's not comfortable with what the offense is presenting, what's going on. And again, he doesn't even have the time. He does have the time, but he's sped up in his progression enough where he doesn't necessarily realize that Petry has a good beat on the undercutting of this and does a great job. Tip drill. Great play by Jalen Petry. I loved him out of Baylor. Knew he was going to be a stud. It was pretty clear. All right, here is a really interesting play that, honestly, if we're talking about the offense in terms of how it's schemed up, in terms of how it's coached, in terms of how the players are running the offense, this is as frustrating as it gets, because I don't know whose fault this is. I could certainly see that there is a play call where, based on the coverage, based on how it rolls out here, the routes should develop a different type of way. And that's really Rasheed, what I'm talking about. Rasheed, there's a chance that the way the coverage rolls out on this play, it's already baked into the play. There's a chance that Rasheed should be going over here. He sees the safety playing with kind of the intention of taking him right? Like he's trying to take away this side, but he's playing deep. You're just running into him. And he doesn't even run a real route. He kind of like, I don't know what the hell that is. But I tweeted this earlier, and I really, this is the bottom line here. You know how easy it is as a defense to cover a pass play if you don't have to cover an entire half of the field past 5 yards? Look at this pocket of field that no Chiefs receiver is threatening. Rashee Rice eventually gets over there at the very end of the play when it does, in a scramble drill type of move more than the actual part of the route. So that's where, in my experience watching the Chiefs, there are a lot of times with these downfield routes that the angles change based on the coverage. And so I don't want to, say for sure, 100% that there is supposed to be, I should say, I'm trying to say, I don't know for sure that this is the play call's fault. But if this is the play call, if Rashee doesn't have the option to run over there, if Rashee is truly just supposed to be running vertical, and if it's not there, he's just taking away these defenders because that's all he does. That's terrible, because the whole point of the West Coast offense, the whole point of what Andy Reid loves to do as a offensive play caller is spread out the defense, attack every part of the field, every 53 and a half yards, sideline to sideline. That's how wide a football field is. That's the whole point of a West Coast offense. You're not threatening a part of the field here. And on 3rd and 4, this is 3rd and 5. This is 3rd and 5. Excuse me. In a situation where you need a touchdown, you need to keep this drive alive. Get into the actual red zone. They're actually right outside the red zone here. It's just, when you're playing a defense this good, the Texans have proven to be the best defense in the NFL. In my opinion, especially in coverage. Like, I know their pass rush is ferocious, but it seems like their linebackers and defensive backs are all over the place. They tighten every window. They do not allow you much space to work with. Andy Reid, this offense is supposed to design open players. This team leads in YAC every year, and they do this year, I believe. If you look at NFL Pro Next Gen stats, they're always up in the top in terms of average separation per target. Although this year they are towards the middle of the NFL, which I do think is interesting. Not only are they not creating an open space for a player to run into, or creating it, they're not even using a whole half of the field. They're letting Houston only defend 3/4 of the field, or whatever that is, 2/3 of the field. Excuse me. Yeah, no, it's bad, and Mahomes recognizes it, and he wants to get out. He wants to make the play with his legs. He's being patient. But that's where the Texans pass rush is also very good, and they do a good job of closing the pocket, and there's not a lot to go, or a lot of places to go. That's frustrating, and that's where I keep saying Andy Reid, but I believe it's one of his disciples that is really is the main issue. I really feel like Matt Nagy has taken what Andy Reid taught him, or what he learned as a Chiefs coach under Andy Reid. I don't even remember if he was at the Eagles, but what he has learned under Andy's tutelage, I feel like he has gone too far, or he has gone too finesse. Andy Reid, the West Coast offense is finesse to an extent. Andy Reid has evolved it into more of a spread West Coast offense, where the West Coast foundation is there, but it's more of a spread offense now. Matt Nagy took it to a way different extreme, where there is no sense of downhill vertical ability anymore. There is no sense of any sort of threat to the run game. The West Coast offense is built off a threat to the run game. Like, I know it's not built to have explosive runs as much, right? You're really just you're chipping away a lot. Sure, fine. But this offense doesn't even try to have a run game that is as impactful and that chips away at you at all. It's not chipping away to get 4 or 5 yards in the NFL. No one cares if you get 4 or 5 yards on a carry. We do that all the time as a Chiefs defense. How far has that gotten us to have a great run defense? We have a great run defense. It doesn't matter. And I'm telling you, it's because you need explosive runs. You know, the run defense is bad when they give up explosive runs. The defense is bad when they give up explosive plays. The Chiefs defense is. The Chiefs offense does not threaten explosive plays whatsoever in the run game, at least. Here's actually a good example of them trying to threaten explosive of plays in the pass game. This is another example of just not loving, maybe 15 process here in terms of kind of dirting it at the feet of a receiver he believes is getting held, doesn't get the call. Probably should have gotten a call. I'm not saying that. This is a 3rd and 4. And I believe this is in the second half now. But look at the routes you get from Tyquan and Hollywood Brown here. Where Tyquan goes up the middle of the field, takes that Tampa 2 safe or linebacker with him. He gets on top of the safeties. Now, I'm not saying that Mahomes had enough time to get to these players, but it's just this is kind of a repeat of last year to an extent where teams are just someone like the Houston Texans came in with a good defense, said, hey, we'll give you stuff over the top. We're really focused on taking away the underneath. Look at Zero, how he's playing the route in breaking, right, on Tyquan. He plays that route in breaking until Tyquan's basically even with him. And Tyquan gets over the top of that. If Mahomes had the time, it'd be great. He doesn't. That's not the point. Kelsey does get held a little bit here. That's fine. Even Hollywood, though, getting outside, getting on top. This safety, he is over the top, but I feel like he's definitely looking underneath to the point where if there is time, again, I'm just more pointing out, this play is really just pointing out that in this game, the Texans were really playing everything underneath, and fairly so, because, rightfully so, I should say, because the Chiefs did have backup offensive linemen in, as well as Isapol played Esapol. I'm sorry, I do not exactly know how his name is pronounced. I was not around for training camp. I was still on my quarter-life crisis sabbatical. But I know he played well. And so you got to give them credit. But at the same time, there were still crushed pockets. There were still pockets not lasting a very long time. Yeah, no crap. This Houston Texans defense is very good. Okay, let's move on. Let's keep going. This is 3rd and 2 in the third quarter where they did settle for a field goal, tied up the game. But wouldn't have this been nice to get on 3rd down, keep the drive going? This is 3rd and 2, and it's a good concept where you're not gonna the Chiefs do a lot of releasing the running back to the opposite flat, right? Where even if he fakes a handoff or if there's no handoff, it's a token handoff. He usually gets kind of out to the flat on the other side in these situations. And they kind of just flip it on the Texans, right? Where he goes, he kind of redirects, goes to the same side, to the flat. It's just kind of one of those things where, and that's why I didn't include some of the drops in this clip because, drops are drops, right? And we are going to see some of the drops, but yeah, no, this ball could be more in front of him. He can't really take too much more time because you have a guy like Will Anderson who's a freak athlete, coming in right away. And Kelsey can't block him, right? He's not necessarily blocking him. He has to almost act like he's blocking then release, like just for the fact that he can't get OPI, right? It's a play action. He can act like he's blocking at first. He can release after blocking. He can't block as, the play is developing as it's within 1 yard, yada, yada. All that to say, he's trying not to get OPI. Just bad execution. No matter what it is, I'm not blaming one thing or another on this. It just sucks because it's actually a pretty good play call to get Kareem out into the flat. He probably would have ran over that dude, and they probably would have been able to keep that drive alive. Who knows if they score a touchdown? Okay. Here is the fourth quarter where it all went crashing down. So if you're joining now, you're joining at the right time. I did just kind of go on a pretty strong rant, but it has just started, ladies and gentlemen. This is 3rd and 6. Open. this play happened so quick. I didn't even see, like, I think I went to the restroom and I come back and there's an interception. Like it out of nowhere, at a commercial break right out of the end of the third quarter. It just seemed like things flipped and that quickly. And we'll get into the play, how it developed at first, but let's just take a peek at who's out on a route on this play. And let's take a peek at who's blocking on this play. Oh, that's Hollywood Brown, Tyquan Thornton, good. Travis Kelce, he's out on a route. That's good. That's Rashee Rice in without any sort of route to run. Chipping, I guess, but to an extent, that's literally just blocking Will Anderson. Like they're just double teaming him. That's not a chip. A chip, he would line up closer. I mean, I don't know. You know what? Maybe I'm wrong on the technical part of that. All that to say, this is 3rd and 6, fourth quarter, do or die game. Let's use Rashee. And hey, he hasn't been catching the ball. We're about to see it here in a second. Actually, I didn't include that play. I might have. But don't love it. Don't love it. Don't love on 3rd and 6. It's not 3rd and 10. This offensive line, like, yes, it's been tough to get long pockets like I was just talking about, but man, it's 3rd and 6. Like, just go more traditional with your formation and get Rice out as one of your players. Like and I'll show it in a second. Like he's still on the 4th and 1 play. Actually, it wasn't even that play. We'll talk about it in a second, but he understands how to beat zone. We all know that. And he understands how to get open to an extent. Maybe not if the guy is sticking to him in man coverage. Yes, he has to work on that, but he does know how to get open to an extent. And he's probably one of your best at getting open in terms of, like, again, against the zone. This appears to be a zone coverage. This is kind of a cover 3 look, right? But all right, here's the breakdown of the play. Mahomes, let's see where his eyes are because they should be on the deep safety. He's kind of trying to buy time. The safety gets in conflict because Tyquan and Hollywood are kind of crossing, right? They're switching. Gets in conflict. And boom, it actually works out really well where Tyquan is able to take the deep safety with him, turns to go with him just enough where Hollywood can get on top and run deep. The problem is, which I don't know if Mahomes realized at any point in this play, the cover 3 corner is in beautiful position to play that underneath. And if you're going to throw this ball, it's got to be all the way to the end zone. It can't be whatever this was. And he gets pressured, right? He buys time, sees the pressure coming in. But this is 3rd and 6 again. And 3rd down, like, I don't know. I guess maybe he just believes in his arm that he can throw that far off platform. But, man, by the time, and then step up and sling it. I know that's tough to ask for especially now that when you see 55 starting to come too, or you feel him coming too. And I'm sure he feels 51 coming from the right edge. But I mean, this throw is never going to work. The underneath defender was in perfect position the whole time. Even if he throws it a little further, like, it's an arm punt. So it really doesn't end up being the worst play in the world. It's better than a sack. Probably. They probably get better field position on a sack after the punt than, where he ends up going down with the ball. But I don't know. Just don't love that play to start the 4th quarter in a tight game in a do or die situation. All right. Now we get to 4th and 1.5, right? It was more than 1, I think. And we get here by Mahomes making that incredible scramble, right? Incredible scramble. Incredible scramble. Gets all the way there. And I do think, I think we all can admit, I mean, it's not like this like hot take to say Andy Reid just let the emotions of that moment get to him. And honestly, hey, hand up. I was kind of excited when they went for it. Did I realize it was at the 31-yard line? Not even a little bit. And then when I heard the 31-yard line, I was like, hold up. That was pretty crazy. In a 10-10 game, when your defense has been holding the Texans offense to nothing in the second half. They have been absolutely zero in the second half. I was kind of, I was with, but I'm a fan. And I'm trying to be better at just being an analyst, right? I want to, not necessarily let my fandom emotions get the best of me when I'm covering the game. I don't think I do to an extent. I think I like to just kind of play into it a lot. Not play into it, but kind of, I like being a fan. We all like being fans. It's fun to be a football fan, Andy Reid is the head coach, a very veteran head coach. And man, who was that coach? A college coach said it perfectly recently, where he said, I think it was Mike Elko of Texas A&M. Yes, Mike Elko, where they came back against South Carolina. They were down 30-3 at halftime. Mike Elko said, I am, the players are meant to, I can't remember exactly what he said. Someone look up that quote and make me look smart for referencing it. Basically what he said is the coach's job in those high emotion moments is to stay the same. Because the emotions can change. These are, he was talking about college players. College kids are a lot more emotional than professional football players probably. But I would say fans, players, they are going to have a lot more of emotional spikes, adrenaline than a coach. A coach is supposed to be cool, even keeled. He's supposed to be consistent. He's supposed to be consistent with his strategy. That's Andy Reid's game. It's been his game his entire career, especially in Kansas City. He is as consistent as it gets in terms of the messaging. It's almost annoying how consistent he is with the messaging, with how he runs his program. He let the emotions get to him in a really tight spot, and I think that's worth kind of highlighting. How, this is how this season has worn on him. I've talked about him, or I've tweeted about how I feel like he has been frustrated in press conferences the last couple of weeks, where he is clearly not just taking the blame like he used to whenever they would lose and it would look bad, and it was clearly a bunch of different things, and he would just say, it starts with me, we got to clean these up, I got to go back, blah, blah, blah. He is clearly starting to point to the execution and other things that are not necessarily him. He is starting to point to those things, and I think when you see a moment like this, where it's clear as day that he should trust his defense after a good, solid punt that puts them down 80 yards away from the end zone, trust your defense to get another stop. That time of the game, there was about 10 minutes left in the game. You could reasonably say if the Texans, let's say they take 2 minutes off the clock, maybe they get a first down and then punt it away, or however it works. The Chiefs have a chance after that to have the ball, game tied at 10. With the amount of time you have left, you have a chance to go 7 minutes on a drive and kill the clock and win the game with a touchdown or a field goal, in theory. And that's just where this is a really frustrating play. Now let's look at the actual play. First problem with the play. Pretty obvious. 4th and 1.5. Kareem Hunt is the best short yardage back in the NFL. We've heard it all year. Everyone loves to talk about the comparisons to the tush push. I still don't. Steph Kaiser, shout out, did kind of point out, how the stat breaks down, and we together realized that it wasn't better than the tush push at the time. All I'd say, this is 4th and 1.5, and you are not going to threaten with the run at all. That's the first problem. That's a major problem. That's actually the primary problem with this play call, with this decision. Trusting Mahomes on a 4th and 1.5, or trusting this offense, captained by Mahomes on a 4th and 1.5, is not this crazy, egregious idea. It was crazy in the moment, and he even admitted it, right? He let the emotions get to him. He didn't say that, but he admitted that he probably shouldn't have done that in a press conference. The worst part of this play is coming out in empty. Kareem Hunt is lined up as a tight end, basically. Great. He can chip. That's awesome. Sweet. Who cares, though? Run the ball. What happened to that fullback dive play we see all the time? We haven't seen it. We didn't see it this game. They usually have these go-to short yardage plays that they want to run every single time they run into them, and it works every time. This is actually one of them, and they just try to get too creative with it. You're going to get whoever's in the running back position to leak into the opposite flat. I was talking about that earlier, right? And then all these receivers over here are going to try to come inside, bring the defenders inside, and whoever is going out to defend the running back into the flat, the receivers are going to try to get in their way. And so the running back can have an angle to the flat. That's what bears out on this play. First of all, the pressure kind of eliminates the chance for Mahomes to really get to this pass. He could float it over, but it doesn't seem like he's very interested once the ball snapped. So that's great. Your primary route on this play is like not even part of the equation. And so we go back to what the rest of the routes are supposed to do at this point. Now that your primary route is taken away by the pressure, Mahomes probably just can kind of see that Al-Shahir is in that flat ready to go. He can feel that. Al-Shahir had no care for anything inside. He was ready to attack the flat. He knows it's 4th and 1.5. He knows he has to. And guess what? Again, he probably knew this play was coming. Once they motioned someone in the backfield, you know what he thought? Oh, shoot, I bet they're trying to leak this guy into the flat with a trips look coming the other way. Because that's what they do on every goal to go important 3rd or 4th down. We see it a ton in these situations. This is actually the play, the concept play that won them the game last year against Buffalo, that sealed the game against the Buffalo in the AFC Championship. This is the play. And so, yes, it is a good design when it works, but run some more plays or run the ball. Open the playbook, do more stuff. And they ran this play against the Colts on the 2-point conversion. Rashee Rice catches it. It's the same play concept, except Rice actually bends back, which you can kind of see Kelsey do to an extent. Right. In theory, all these 3 receivers are kind of going across the field, right? None of them are supposed to be bending back to an extent when the play is run on it at its basic form. I ran this play in high school. Everyone runs this freaking play. So against the Colts, Rashee Rice's 2-point conversion, he actually, in Kelsey's position, kind of bends back against the grain, right? And it works out perfectly. 2-point conversion. Mahomes rifles it in there. Again, though, why not just have more than a play or two that you run in the same situation over and over again? The Texans are all over this. And let's get back to the rest of the play. Once Mahomes realizes he's not getting to his primary read, he wants Juju needs to settle. Juju does not. Juju keeps running into the zone defender that is waiting for him, that is catching him. He needs to settle. And so there's your second option out the window. And then Rashee Rice, just obviously in a situation where these Texans defenders are ready to pounce, watching Mahomes' eyes, ready to go to the ball. Awful, awful, awful play. This is the season. There were so many other issues in this game that ended up being the reason they lost. Don't get me wrong. But imagine if they just get this. Imagine if they just get this somehow and keep going on that drive. Maybe they eventually kick a field goal. They kick back to the Texans. They stop them. They're up 13-10 with the ball back with about 4 minutes left. Nope. The Texans go on to score a touchdown because they're 30 yards away from the end zone. And then when the Chiefs get the ball back, this is actually 3rd and 4. This is the play before Rashee Rice's drop. I did not include Rashee Rice's drop because I think it's pretty self-explanatory what happened on that play. On this play, though, again, you got to give credit to the Texans for being able to swallow up our route combinations and not allow any sort of breathing room for Mahomes to feel good about running or throwing the ball into. Here, he really wants, we'll go to the end zone angle because you'll see his eyes, but it does feel like he wants to go over the middle to Rice, but it's just, he actually wants Noah Gray. I'm sorry. I write down these notes, and then once I get into this, I just forget what I say. I forget what I wrote down. You can see him Noah Gray does have this kind of release out, right, where Kelsey's guy is so sticky to him that there's no underneath defender to take away kind of the pass towards the sideline, away from the over the top leverage of the defender, right? And so I think Mahomes is trying to maybe go there, realizes that's pretty risky because this is 3rd and 4 in a really tight ball game, down 17-10, moves up in the pocket, tries to get to Rice at the last second, who is open initially, not really, but obviously with a low throw and away, Rice could certainly get this ball past the sticks. But Mahomes just kind of too hung up on his initial read by the time he can get back to it. It's too late. And honestly, I should correct myself. There's really nowhere to even go to Rice on this. 39-0 are playing so well underneath. Trying to fit into that window is just a bad idea. So this really goes back to, again, the play call not giving Mahomes very many opportunities. The Texans were all over it, especially on routes short to intermediate. There was just nowhere to go with the ball. And that's where we're going to finish this video on this final play. Oh, wow. I did not set that up well. This is 4th and 4 where she drops it. And we'll just watch it real quick because they try to do a mesh concept, which they did over and over in this game. The Texans obviously were pretty good at defending it after the 20th time they've seen it. And what do you know? Ball goes incomplete after Rashee Rice does a really good job of getting open. Watch Rashee Rice here. He's going to be the over-the-top guy when him and Kelsey cross. The linebacker reads it perfectly, and so he turns with him because he's turning with the crosser. And Rice realizes that, and so he's going to pivot back against the momentum of the defender and get into an open window at the last second, right? So, that's awesome, Rice. Catch the freaking ball. Catch the ball. Your season is on the line. And you just dropped the pass last week that resulted in a crucial 4th down miss against Dallas. Or 3rd down. It was 3rd and 8 against Dallas, and they didn't go for it. Obviously, 4th and 8. But yeah, it's dude, great job. Great job. He got himself open for Pat. Just doesn't finish the play. Story of the Chiefs season. Little self-inflicted wounds. And none better than the one that got everyone to get riled up on a Chiefs legend because of this play that shouldn't have even happened last night. If the rest of the game, if there's not shot in the foot there, the 4th and 1 play, the Rice drop we just saw, this play shouldn't have even happened. But since it did happen, we'll break it down. What you get here is Kelsey's really just trying to get outside. He's got Hollywood, it looks like, to kind of help him clear, right? He's clearing the safety, trying to give him space to work outside so that safety isn't right up there when he catches it. He's breaking out away from the defender playing inside leverage. And so the ball, it's a tight ball. It's a tight throw. It's a tight throw. And that's one thing I want to apologize to my friend Price Carter, former APer. Kind of sounded very snarky in my tweet to him about this play. I was triggered. Travis Kelce does not deserve the petty criticism he gets for, again, what I opened this whole thing saying, this play shouldn't have even happened. Rice just dropped a way more important pass. Look where they're at on the field. He catches this pass, great. They still have another 75 yards to go. Rashee Rice drops a pass on 4th and 4 in Houston territory. But Travis is the one that needs to speak to the media afterwards. Travis was the one in the locker room to tell the media, sorry, I don't want to speak right now. Heartbroken because it's his last meaningful football game. He's a human. Wow, who knew? He didn't want to speak to reporters about the worst performance in the Chiefs offensive era, or in the Mahomes era as the Chiefs offense. Yes, he could have played better. The entire team could have played better. Rashee Rice left the locker room before any press was there and didn't want to talk to reporters. Didn't say that to face. He didn't have the nerve to tell that to the reporters. He just walked out before they got there. Travis was just in his uniform, heartbroken, couldn't speak to reporters. But he's soft. Christian Gumminger. Again, I'm triggered again. I love y'all. Shout out Price Carter. Shout out Christian. Let's break down this play, though, and I'll get out of here. I'll stop yelling into your guys' ears. Again, gets the outs. I'm just laughing at myself now. Gets the outside receiver to deepen the safety. And so really the key player here is 39, which plenty of you pointed out to me on Twitter. He does a good job of not getting too wide, of squeezing this throwing window. And so, yes, it is a very tight throwing window. Ball's behind him. Ball's so behind him that he's actually reaching outside of his frame to try to catch it. That's just a recipe for a bobbled pass. And here's the thing, and kind of where my snarky comment, kind of the heart of it was that, yes, like I get that, like criticizing Mahomes' accuracy on this play is like, all right, dude, I get it. I get that that's silly. But especially when the pocket is collapsing on him. I totally get it. But this Texans defense all night was not giving you any open throwing windows. And so when you do have any sort of window, there's not margin for error. This ball needs to be on his body. I'm sorry. Like, Kelce cannot pirouette all the way around, extend his arms all the way to the other side of his body and expect that to, like, you guys can't expect this to be just like easy pitch and catch. If Kelce does make this catch, it's a great catch. And Mahomes is telling him, hey, thank you, because I should have put it more on your numbers. And 39 squeezing this throwing window is not squeezing it enough. Let's back this up as close as we can. There is room to throw it to Kelce's body. There's room to throw it where Kelce's hands are already prepared to catch it. 39 is not squeezing the throwing window that much, guys. He's not. So stop. Stop acting like Kelce, this was all on Kelce. Should Kelce have maybe, and here's another part of this that I wish I would have pointed out on Twitter. Mahomes needs to release it on his first clutch here. Boom. That is the issue, actually. And I'm glad I kind of made sure I got back to this point. That is my problem with the play, or that's where 15 has a problem in this play. Because just that little bit of delay, I think that's where, if the ball is where it is when he throws it the first time, Kelce is turning and sitting on it. Now he's turning and it's away from him because he has already started moving. He can't stop moving away. He can't stop moving towards the sideline. That is I think the important thing here to point out to anyone that's saying he has to throw it inside away from the other defender's leverage. Zero is playing on inside leverage right from the get-go. Kelce has to break away from him. He cannot stop moving after he gets to the top of this route. He has to break away from him. And so, yes, Kelce probably expects to have to turn and make a pretty a pretty impressive catch as he turns to sit on it. It's not an easy catch where it's going to be maybe right in his hands where he's moving, although there is room to do that. Again, I don't think 39 had that great of an angle as everyone believes he did. Look where 39 is. Good God, guys. He's not taking away a pass that's 2 or 3 feet to the outside. He's not. Again, that's where Kelce has to keep moving to the outside. Mahomes throws it to his inside too much, because you do want to throw it where he's not fully extended running outside and the safety has a chance to come down and clobber him, but he has the room. So I'm going back and forth a little bit because I respect a lot of people's opinion, and I do feel like I saw a lot of people, really kind of pointing to maybe that Kelce, even the route here where Kelce maybe needs to anticipate sitting a little quicker. But again, that's where I think the timing here. Look at Mahomes' timing. It just leads to a bad pass. All right, that was the last play. Thank you so much for listening to my rants and my accelerator-fueled breakdowns. I felt way too much like an ad. I'm sorry. That was goofy as hell. That was corny as fuck. Not as corny as Captain Cornball on Twitter. But what we have for the rest of the season on this show will be very forward-looking film review. I'll open it up to the defense more. I don't care to look at the things that are going to be corrected maybe this year with the offense. I don't care anymore. this team is eliminated. They're not mathematically eliminated, but they're not making the playoffs. Chargers showed a lot of guts beating the Eagles last night. I'm going to believe in the Phillips River Colts. No, I'm just kidding. The Colts are about to bottom out completely, but it does feel like the Texans, Bills, and Chargers are going to be those wild card teams. I don't even care if the Chiefs beat the Chargers this week. It just feels like the Chargers are going to get in. And so what you can expect from me on this show moving forward is film review that really thinks about the future, which is weird to say, but let's do it, guys. Let's think about the 2026 Chiefs. Let's look forward to the next time this team is in playoff contention and is ready to go to a Super Bowl. It's going to happen again. Sorry, rest of the NFL. Patrick Mahomes is going nowhere. He is still the quarterback of this team. Maybe the team around him has failed him and has put too much pressure on him these last couple of years. I think that is absolutely the case. And maybe even relied on some of their veteran players too much to just be superheroes. Chris Jones almost did it this game. I mean, he almost won this game entirely by himself. Could have if Andy Reid didn't go for it on 4th and 1. But 6-7 and not making the playoffs, this team, there is going to be realistic or real change. Like, there needs to be real accountability with the fact that this team with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback is not about to go to the playoffs. And I can't wait to see what that change is. And I can't wait to see an aggressive offseason from Brett Veach. And I can't wait to be back here next year with y'all talking about how this team can make the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl and get Mahomes' 4th ring. But it's not happening this year. That last week was my kaput. If they do it somehow again this year, I don't even know what I would do. I don't know what I would do. I don't want to say anything on here and incriminate myself. But what I will be doing the rest of this year is looking at the film every game with a future-minded look, looking at rookies, right? Looking at players that are going to be a part of this team moving forward. And I'm really excited to do that. I think Ashton Gelati, Noel Williams, those guys came on a little bit this last game, and let's see if they can have strong finishes to the season. The offensive players, is Rashard Smith going to see a little bit more and see what he can do as a real running back moving forward. Are we ever going to see Jalen Royals? Would be nice. If we do, I will try to break it down here on the show. So yeah, there it is. I appreciate everyone joining me. Go Chiefs. Let's just enjoy the rest of this year. And again, we'll be back. Let's just see how good this team can get over the offseason and in the draft. And 2026, I have a good feeling we'll be back in playoff contention, having a good time competing with all the other teams. We're not going to be doing this. January is free, guys. January is open. I'm going to be at the East-West Bowl potentially. I'm going to be doing some real draft scouting with a whole offseason to do it. So let's have a fun offseason, enjoy it, and let's just continue on our ascension into football greatness next year. Mahomes, that is. All right, y'all. I've been rambling enough. Have a good night. Appreciate y'all joining. Catch you next time. Chiefs.